When Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced to 50 months in federal prison, the reactions were immediate: shock, confusion, and disbelief. But according to Michael Franzese, a former capo in the Colombo crime family who spent years behind bars, Diddy's biggest problems are only just beginning.
Normally, nobody's looking to shank you. When you get into the higher institutions, when people are doing, a ton of time and there's no way you can benefit them, then you got a little more problem.
Maybe if he'd be in a camp type situation, that's a possibility. But based on the lifestyle and what he's done and what he's accomplished, if he had to go behind those bars for a lot of years, I think that he may commit.
Francis explained that despite the headlines, Diddy's legal team managed to navigate a highly volatile situation. In his view, the judge carefully weighed everything: the years of controversy, the intense media coverage, and the emotional testimony from Diddy's family. In the end, Diddy walked away with just over 4 years, a sentence that many insiders believe could have been much harsher.
Obviously, he's disappointed, although he really shouldn't be. I think, a 4-year sentence here with already credit for the year or so that he has in, I think he did very well with respect to all of the drama and all of the circumstance around this trial. There was a lot of bad stuff out there, and I'm not saying, I'm not passing judgment on that, but it just looked really bad. And he could have gotten up to 10 years or 11 years. So I think the judge, took everything into consideration. I think his family today made a very good plea for him, and I think he did very well. That's my opinion.
So in your experience, like your own experience and other, inmates that you've seen go through it and then show back up at the cell block, how do they take this? Do they bury their head in the pillow and cry, or do they keep their head held high and just pack up their stuff and wait for their assigned new prison? Like, tell me everything.
Well, everybody's different. I'm sure he went back was somewhat disappointed, so he's probably, dwelling on that. Hey, it could have been differently. Maybe I should have gotten out. Maybe he's a little bit upset, a little bit angry. I get it. All those emotions come into play.
There's a process that determines where someone like Diddy ends up. Judges can recommend a facility, but the Bureau of Prisons makes the final decision. Because of Diddy's fame and the intense public attention surrounding his case, it's unlikely he'll be placed in a minimum security camp. Those facilities, often nicknamed Club Fed, are reserved for low-risk inmates and feature open grounds, limited barriers, and a more relaxed atmosphere. However, Diddy's high profile makes him a potential security concern, meaning a medium security prison is far more likely.
He's got to get ready. He'll spend a couple of weeks there until they designate him to a new facility. And he'll be a lot better off in prison than he is in the federal jail. At least there you can move around and you got some freedom on the yard and things like that. My thought is he'll collect himself, get himself together. There are ways for him to improve himself. They have the Bureau of Prisons now has a drug program. And if you're allowed to get into that drug program, you can knock as much as 18 months off your sentence. Now, I don't know if he'll qualify, if they'll allow him to go in, but he'll probably start to think about, okay, what can I do to reduce my time now? That's what everybody thinks when you get in there. Is there any way we can better ourselves? He's thinking about what facility they're going to send him to. I'm sure he spoke to his lawyers and he asked his lawyers to put in a facility that's close to his home, close to his family, a low or medium level. I don't think he'll get into a camp.
Can you though? Does your request actually count? I mean, I thought the feds just put you where it works for them. I didn't think you get a say in it.
Well, here's the thing. The judge, you could ask the judge to recommend. The Bureau of Prisons doesn't have to go along with the judge's recommendation, but it does help a little bit. They do try to sometimes satisfy the judge's request. You can put in a request, and sometimes they'll honor it, sometimes they won't.
Francis knows exactly what that world looks like. He recalled his own time in both prison camps and higher security facilities. Minimum security camps had no fences, just open perimeters built on trust. But mistakes, transfers, or oversights could easily land someone back in a much tougher environment. He emphasized that Diddy's experience will depend less on where he goes and more on how he handles himself once he's there.
Is the camp the lowest security and therefore more paddle and tennis and all the other things and what they call Club Fed or Camp Cupcake?
Yeah, they moved me to a camp by accident at one point, and there's no fences or anything like that. And I wasn't there for too long because they realized they made a mistake and put me back in the medium security. But they tell you when you get there, listen, there's no fences. If you want to leave, you can leave. But when we catch you, we're going to add another 5 years onto your sentence. And while I was in that camp for 2 months, each month somebody ran away. I mean, they always try to do that. But yeah, he's thinking
Wow.
of that. Yeah, he's thinking of that. But a medium security is not
Wait,
that
so
bad.
let me quickly go back though. Go back to that piece about he's high profile, so he won't get a camp. Why wouldn't he? I thought in a camp nobody's going to shank him because again they want out.
The overriding factor there, I believe, is he's a guy with a lot of money. And I'll tell you, this happened to me when I went in there because of the profile I had, because of the way they wrote me up. I had everybody and their brother inmate trying to do a deal with me when I got out, a business deal. They need money. Because of the fact that he's a money guy, I think he's going to have more friends than he will enemies. And in a medium security, normally nobody's looking to shank you. When you get into the higher institutions, when people are doing, a ton of time and there's no way you can benefit them, then you got a little more problem. But in a medium security, I don't think he'll have an issue at all. I really don't. He can be too much of a benefit to inmates that are always looking for something. And he could be a golden ticket for some people, at least in their mind.
For Diddy, these moments will test him more than any courtroom ever could. The isolation, the stripped-down lifestyle, and the distance from everything familiar force a kind of honesty that fame never allows. So what does Diddy do now? His lawyers are fighting to keep the hip-hop mogul close to his family in a safer, more rehabilitative environment. However, Gene Deal, his former bodyguard, believes Diddy doesn't deserve any of the sympathy he's receiving for his sentence.
The artist got him dropping to his knees at the time of the verdict room. To see him on his knees begging like that.
On Monday, Diddy's defense team sent a letter to Judge Aaron Subramanian, requesting that he recommend the Bureau of Prisons place Diddy at FCI Fort Dix, a large, low-security federal prison in southern New Jersey. Attorney Tenny Garagos explained that Fort Dix would allow Diddy to address his drug abuse issues while also maximizing opportunities for family visitation and rehabilitation. The facility offers a well-known treatment program called RDAP, the Residential Drug Abuse Program, a 9 to 12-month intensive course designed to help inmates recover and potentially reduce their sentences by up to a year. For someone serving around 3 more years, that reduction could make a significant difference. However, Gene Deal believes Diddy is beyond rehabilitation. He argues that Diddy might simply be too far gone, and that he's finally getting what he deserves.
God is good. I don't have no sympathy about it. I'm happier than a barrel of dicks.
Over the years, Fort Dix has seen its share of famous faces. For Diddy's legal team, the appeal is clear. Its proximity to home, easier access to family, and potential for genuine rehabilitation. However, not everyone agrees that Fort Dix is the ideal choice. Christopher Zoukis, author of the Federal Prison Handbook and a consultant who helps defendants navigate the federal system, describes the facility as unpredictable. He's warned that while Fort Dix may appear calm from the outside, it has struggled with gang activity, contraband, and staff shortages. This could actually pose a serious problem for Diddy, as America's prisons are still filled with people who idolize Tupac. Many of them, especially those at Fort Dix, reportedly view Diddy as someone who may have played a role in the shooting that took their hero's life.
Say, yo, listen here, man. This guy's life might be danger over here because people think that he has something to do with Pac. People think he has something to do with Biggie. Some of the people are still mad that he made making of the band walk to Brooklyn from, to get the cheesecake, and just around the corner from the Cheesecake Factory. So, Juniors. So it might be some dumb shit. So y'all need to get him out of here and ship him to Jersey because somebody gonna kill him over here. Those are good arguments, if you want to call it, but it's bullshit. He gonna get the same treatment no matter how much money he got from them correction officers. Because if they don't and they get caught giving him preferential treatment, they gonna lose their job.
So you feel like Pac fans will try to do something to him?
Pac and Biggie fans. He can have issues with both of them because a lot of people think, because of the statement that Keefe D made, that he did something to Pac. A lot of people know or think that because of Biggie leaving, they finding out that Biggie was leaving Bad Boy, that he may have had something to do with Biggie. People feel that way. You hear it all the time. You see it all the time on the chats and all that stuff.
In fact, he recently claimed that Diddy's arrest for Pac's murder could happen much sooner than anyone expects, as Keefe D is now threatening to expose everything.
Keefe D, his trial begins in February, and you know, his defense is the reason why he killed Tupac is because of Puffy. Puffy, he put a hit out on him and Suge, and I don't know, man. It ain't looking too good for Puffy.
Brother, you know what? With a trial, you can't only use circumstantial evidence. You have to have some kind of physical evidence. There's no physical evidence that Keefe D or has something to do with Pac's death. There's circumstantial evidence. There's people that could probably testify of what somebody told them or heard. So now, Keefe D, lawyers and them did a great job when they did trial by judge. Because the judge is looking for physical evidence. What ties Keefe D to Puff? What ties Keefe D to the murder of Tupac? And how could they prove that either one of them has something to do with it? Somebody would have to get on the stand and say that I saw him, he told me, and they want to have to believe them. The Bloods was laying people down, but behind Pac getting shot. It was a big, it sparked a big gang war out there. So, if they want to pull Diddy into that, they got to mitigate circumstantial evidence. Anybody could be a witness for you, but what can they prove? Somebody's going to have to say, I heard this conversation. This was a handshake or a nod or something went down, and it's going to be hard to prove. It's going to be hard to prove. Unless they follow the money.
That said, low-security prisons like Fort Dix are generally more relaxed than medium or high-security ones. There's more freedom to move around, but also more responsibility. Inmates must manage their behavior and stay out of trouble to maintain their privileges. Ultimately, the Bureau of Prisons will decide where Diddy serves his sentence. The judge's recommendation can influence the decision, but it isn't binding. The Department of Justice has also stated that it won't weigh in on where Diddy is placed. Wherever he ends up, though, he should hope he doesn't run into the mob, because they might have it out for him.
He was doing stuff to please himself. And look, after talking to all the male escorts, I got a very clear idea that Cassie was with it.
Oh, listen, I say all the time.
Cassie was with it. She would pick out the guys. She would want to do stuff with the guys, even when the guys were over it. You know, she would run into the guys randomly, then call Diddy, said, oh, I saw so-and-so downstairs. Let's call him up. She didn't have to do that.
Diddy was Nino Brown. Cassie was G-Money.
Okay.
That's just the fact.
Right.
Like, Diddy was...
She was like, you know, Epstein and, what's her name?
Giselle. But what happened was, G-Money wanted out. G-Money got tired of, you know, the treatment that they were experiencing at the hands of Nino Brown. So they wanted out. I mean, we can't sit here and act like there wasn't, you know, text messages where she was, you know, explicitly saying like, look, man, you treat me like a rag doll. I'm somebody's child. Or, hey, this is not what I want to do right now. So, but to your point, yes.
And she could have left at that point. Right?
We saw her try to leave and we saw how that played out. He chased after her in a towel and pulled her to the ground and beat her up.
Well, yeah, that was horrible, but that was one instance. The next day...
That's all it takes.
The next day, you could have left and never came back.
it's easy to say that, but when you're experiencing that,
it is.
It's easy to say that, but when you're experiencing that kind of abuse at the hands of somebody, I can see why she would be afraid to just up and leave. And if you're thinking about it like this, if you're a person like her, you know where all the bodies are buried.
Right.
Diddy can't afford to just let her walk away.
As for Diddy himself, reports from his sentencing hearing revealed just how emotional the moment was. Inside the Manhattan courtroom, he broke down in tears as a video about his life played for the judge and the audience. "I want to apologize again to Cassie Ventura for any harm I caused," he said quietly, calling his actions shameful and sick. He told the court he's been stripped down to nothing and added, "I hate myself right now. I'm truly sorry for it all." However, many believe these apologies are insincere. In a recent interview, Charlemagne claimed that Cassie knows far too much about Diddy and his crimes, and he wouldn't let her get away with exposing him completely.
So, we don't know how much time Diddy's going to get. What would be your guess, by the way? Time served, a couple years, or something like serious, like 10 years?
We had Laura Coates from CNN on. That's crazy. Literally today we had her on, and we asked her that question, and she says she can't see any more than 3 years with time served.
So like maybe 2 more years.
Yeah, like 2 more years. That's what she said.
Right, and you carve off 85%, that might turn into a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's going to be the case, though. It seems like this judge, really is not pleased with the verdict.
Well, yeah, I had Judge Mathis on my show.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's not a federal judge, but he used to be a state judge, so he really knows more than all of us combined. And he said there's a reasonable chance that based on what came out on the stand, the judge might throw the book at him.
Yeah, because you can't unsee what you saw and you can't unhear what you heard. So even though people say things like, oh, he wasn't on trial for domestic violence, you still saw a video. And when you see a video like that, and then you hear all of these other, women say that they were experiencing, domestic violence, it's hard to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I think that was the biggest thing with the Diddy case to me. It's like, when Cassie first came out with these allegations, man, they went so hard saying it wasn't true. They went so hard saying she was lying, only to have a video drop on CNN. It's kind of hard to give a person the benefit of the doubt after that. I was actually shocked at the verdict. I'm not going to front.
Really?
Yeah, only because I felt like, he was getting cooked so much in the court of public opinion. I didn't know how a jury, and by the way, this is not just for Diddy, this is just for any court case. I don't know how a jury cannot be swayed by what they see in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, but I think it was a fair judgment.
Oh, I agree.
This was not RICO. Like, come on.
I agree.
This was not RICO. This was not a criminal enterprise. This was a legitimate business where the CEO liked to rub cum on his nipples.
It was a free-ass motherfucker. That's what it was. But no,
right? And it wasn't sex trafficking.
Listen, you're right.
He was not, like, look, RICO's resigned for the Italian mafia, right? It was pushed by Giuliani to break down these criminal organizations where you had the heads of the families insulating themselves by not actually getting their hands dirty.
Prosecutors weren't convinced. They told the judge that Diddy's remorse might not be as genuine as it seems, pointing to reports that he already had public appearances scheduled for the following week. Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic described his actions as the height of arrogance, arguing that Diddy's supposed respect for the law was nothing more than lip service. Legal experts now believe his defense may have caused more long-term damage than anyone first expected.
It was really telling, not just in what happened today, and the pretrial motions by the defense. When they came out and they said Cassie, Jane, Mia, they weren't victims, and they didn't have a statutory right to address the court. Judge Subramanian came out and really took offense, said it was inappropriate, and I think the defense missed an opportunity here. I don't think there was any world where he was going to get time served, but to make this about Sean Diddy Combs and not about the victims, 5 different lawyers testified for the defense. Only one of them mentioned any of the victims. And that one lawyer, Brian Steele, who's one of the best, said Cassie consented. She knew what she was getting herself into. So really tone deaf. And if you want to go into sentencing and ask for leniency, you got to put on a strong mitigation case and talk about the victims and what you did wrong. Today completely missed the point.
Yeah, talking about tone deaf, that video that we were playing, this 11-minute, documentary style. People said it looked like a slick campaign ad. Everybody inside the court said it landed with a thud, that it was that it backfired. and and using the word Nima just used, tone deaf.
I've never seen that introduced in a sentencing. I don't know if everybody has the capabilities to introduce that. You know what the problem with that video is? Everything you saw in that video, hugging people, charity events, he was committing crimes. He was committing crimes while doing all that.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with that. And that was a big theme that came out today, too. It was the idea of, you say you're sorry. You say you will never do this again. I hope you're right. The problem is every time you said that, when you made the apology video after the Cassie tape came out, afterwards, you beat up Jane.
Let's just remind the audience.
Yeah.
The video of him beating up Cassie came out. First of all, the allegations of him beating up Cassie came out. He denies it, says it's a lie.
Correct.
Then the video comes out showing who the real liar is. Then after the video comes out, he makes this big mea culpa on Instagram where he says, I'm mortified, I'm horrified, I'm going to seek therapy.
Right.
I'm a changed man.
And then afterwards, he beats up Jane,
one of the
victims in this case. And when he was arrested, comes to New York to surrender himself in the hotel room, was evidence of a freak-off, the main allegation in this case. So the idea is, how can the judge believe that he's different? Now, I will say this, I'm gonna actually counter Nima a bit, even though he was 100% right. I think that him talking about his past, talking about the trauma in his life, his children speaking in court today, I think that had an effect.
In the end, Judge Subramanian decided on a sentence shorter than what prosecutors had requested. They wanted 11 years, but longer than what the defense had hoped for. Now, Diddy waits. His next destination will depend on the Bureau of Prisons assessment. If his lawyers succeed, Fort Dix could become his temporary home. There, surrounded by thousands of other inmates, Diddy will trade the lights of fame for the routine of federal life. No more red carpets or boardrooms, just chow halls, early mornings, and long moments of reflection. But the real question remains, what happens when he gets out? Will he go after his victims? Will he seek revenge against those who blew the whistle, like Gene Deal? And for a man who spent decades controlling every room he walked into, this time he'll have no control at all.